All right. Hello, everyone. Hi. Glad you're all here. Thank you so much for staying. I know it's been a long day, but you know, LSAT, whether it's one of the most important parts of your law school application, actually it's the most important part. So it's worth taking the time to learn a bit about it. I can demystify it a bit, plus some LSAT myths, and help you all optimize your LSAT score. So before I start, I'm curious, how many of you have started studying for the LSAT or done some prep? Good portion of you. Has anyone not? Totally new to it. I see a few. Okay, so I might give a little bit of introductory information. Might not be needed by all of you, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So the law school admissions test is the standardized test that pretty much all law schools, few exceptions, require for incoming students, applicants. And it is the most important part of your law school application. Your LSAT score correlates very strongly, in fact, more strongly than any other factor, with your performance in your 1L year, your first year of law school. The law schools care a lot about it. It also factors into law school rankings, the median LSAT score. So it's a way to make yourself look good, make yourself look valuable to the law school. And when you have a killer LSAT score, it's going to put you in really good position, not just to give yourself a chance to get into the law school of your dreams or the place that you want to go, but to get really good scholarships at those law schools. A lot of people don't know you don't have to pay for law school. Put yourself in a really good position with your LSAT, your GPA, put together a really good application. Law schools offer a lot of really good, even full scholarships plus. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about that, plus some LSAT myths, and talk a little bit about the LSAT. So I'll talk about this for about 45 minutes, and then at the end, I'll have about 15 minutes for a Q&A. So prepare any questions you have, and sort of ask them during that time. All right. So who are we? So I am a teacher from LSAT Demon. We're an LSAT prep service. The LSAT Demon started as a website that was just a smart drilling, help people study for LSAT. What do we mean by a drilling feature? The best way to self-study for the LSAT. So every past LSAT question that has basically ever been released is on our website. And what the drilling feature does is it recommends you questions one by one, and it's adaptive. So it gets a feel for your strengths, weaknesses, skill level, and then it recommends you questions based on your skill level. That way, you're optimizing your study. You're always doing the best question to be improving your score. I think I talked to a few of you in the other room, so I might be using the same analogy here. But it's like, if the goal is to get a perfect score in the LSAT, that might be analogous to lifting like a 500-pound weight. And if you're training to be able to lift that 500-pound weight, and you're starting from, day one, you've never lifted weights in your life, we're not going to immediately give you the 500-pound weight. We want to give you progressively more weight that you can handle over time. And so the drilling feature recommends you questions based on your skill level. You're always doing questions at the difficulty level that's most going to help you improve. And so it started as sort of a tech idea to help people study for the LSAT. Became very popular when classes in general moved online during the pandemic. We introduced classes to LSAT Demon. I'm currently a teacher on LSAT Demon. I teach all of my classes virtually. And so now we offer classes. We have written explanations for every one of those questions that you'll encounter. They're all written in common sense terms. We also have video explanations for all of those questions. Multiple daily live classes. We have lessons for every LSAT topic. So now we are a full-blown prep service. And we think our common sense approach to the test, simplifying the test as opposed to overcomplicating it, as people often do, we think that's the best way to optimize your study. Why care about the LSAT? Now, I think we're having some tech issues. Click on this link. But I will encourage you, take out your phones, have a second, and go to lsatdemon.com/scholarship. You can do that now, anytime later. That's one of our free resources. You don't need an account to do that. But what our scholarship estimator does is it takes publicly reported data, ABA mandated, law schools have to report it, and those law schools have to report their 25th percentile LSAT score, 50th percentile, 75th percentile for their incoming students, as well as the GPAs of the. And they also have to report the scholarships that those schools give. So we know the scholarships they're giving out to students and the sort of breakdown of their scores in terms of their GPAs and LSAT scores. And so we can use that data along with some other nuanced calculations to estimate, based on your GPA, different LSAT scores, what type of scholarships you can expect at different schools. So why care about the LSAT? If you play around with that estimator and go up and down a few LSAT points, you'll realize just how drastically, even a couple LSAT points can make for your scholarship chances to law school. 5 LSAT points can be the difference between not getting into a law school and getting a full scholarship to a law school sometimes. So investing in getting every point you can out of this test, exhausting your attempts, making sure that you get greedy, you don't take the test until your practice scores reflect the score that you're happy with. That's the way to put yourself in the best position to get a scholarship. Not just to get into the school, maybe go into a lot of debt, but to put yourself into a position to not have to pay for law school. Something we're always telling the students, don't pay for law school. A lot of people don't. Why do you have to be one of the people that does? So I think that's a major reason to care about the LSAT. Also, as I said before, it's the most important part of your law school application. There's no reason to rush it. You can improve so much on this test. I think there's a myth that I'll talk a little bit more about later. But people will often say, okay, you'll take your diagnostic test, which I encourage all of you to do that haven't yet started studying for the LSAT, where basically you'll take the test cold, don't know anything about the LSAT, and that's sort of your baseline score. A lot of people will say, you can't improve that much over that score. 5 points, 10 points if you do really well. That is a myth. LSAT prep has become way better. We understand the test better than we ever have before. And at LSAT Demon, we frequently see students not just improve by 10 points, but by 20, 30, and we've had a student improve by 40 points recently. I think from the late 120s on their diagnostic test to a 169, a 41-point improvement on a 60, a 120 to a 180. Fantastic improvement. So you have to believe that you can improve. We provide the tools, best tools for studying. And as long as you put in the time and effort, you can get a great score and really change your life, change your law school. So where do you start? Well, first start with your mindset. First I would say take your diagnostic test, get your baseline. It's always good to be able to take that. Then going forward, a lot of people are a little bit demoralized by their diagnostic tests. Seems a little unfamiliar, the test. Maybe they struggled a little bit. Maybe the section went faster than they thought it was going to. They ran out of time. And so people think, I'm not going to be good at this test. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Step one is believe that you can improve. You absolutely can improve on this test. We have a teacher at LSAT Demon, my colleague Robert, who his diagnostic score was a 137. He said, I know I'm capable and smart enough of scoring in the mid-170s. And I think a year and a half later, he scored in the mid-170s, scored a 176 by 30. What we all have in common, those of us who succeeded on the LSAT, I scored a 177, you that demon, is we waited until our practice scores were consistent with our goal score. We set goals and not timelines on this test. Everyone can score as highly as they want to, highly as they believe that they need to put themselves in the best position for the law schools that they want to get into, scholarships. But it's about giving yourself enough time, setting enough time on a daily basis, as well as giving yourself enough time in terms of the year that you need to practice in order to get the best score that you can. So that's what step 2 says. It's setting a goal for yourself and not putting yourself on a timeline. Before I mentioned that, sometimes people say you can only improve by 5, 10 points. That might actually be true if you only give yourself a 3-month window, 2-month window, something. People might wait until the last minute. They say, I want to apply this cycle. But you only give yourself that much time. Of course, you can't maximize yourself. We have teachers at LSAT Demon that took 2 years to study for this test, but they got into the mid-170s. My colleague Ala is now on a full scholarship to Georgetown after taking her diagnostic test in the mid-140s. But she took 2 years to study for this test. So committing to the test for the long haul, again, putting in the time, both on a daily basis and willing to commit to this for the long term, That's the way you're going to set yourself up for success. Some common mistakes. Like I said, putting yourself on a short timeline. Already spoken about that. That's a major issue. You're not going to achieve your maximum score if you're putting yourself on a timeline as opposed to setting a goal and believing you can get there. Not thinking you can improve. Everyone can improve at this test, no matter where you're starting from, whether your diagnostic score is in the 160s or in the 120s. You can improve at this test. This is not an IQ test. This is not some measure of your inherent abilities and you simply can't improve them. This is a skills-based test. Maybe you happen to have those skills a little more than someone else. You have a higher diagnostic score to begin with, but we can all develop those skills. You're smart people, either undergraduate, you have college degrees, you can read. You are, you're signing up to be gladiators of the English language. And so that's what this test is measuring. It's testing your mastery of formal English. It's testing how hard you can work. Emphasis on that second point, how hard you can work. You want to be a lawyer? Yeah, you got to work hard. So put in the time and believe in yourself. You absolutely can master this test. And third, not having the right resources. I hope I can sell you today on the idea that we're offering you the best resource. Like I said, we offer daily classes. We have our drilling feature. So basically, LSAT Demon's offerings are the best self-study tools you can find, supplemented by personalized help where you need it. So along with the daily classes, we actually have a feature of our website called the Ask button, where whenever you're going over a question, say you don't understand the question, you don't understand the written explanation, the recorded explanation, we have a whole team of tutors there to answer any questions that you write into us. We'll answer that within a few hours. So we have a team of tutors there at your disposal, a team of teachers there at your disposal, and all of the resources you need to self-study whenever you need to, as much as you need to. And we're there to support you. So we believe we're offering the best resources to really get the best score that you can. Common myths at the end of the presentation. Finally got to them. Number one, how do people talk about speed on the LSAT? So if you're not familiar, LSAT, every section of the test, don't have accommodations, is 35 minutes. On each section, I would say there's an average of 25, 26 questions. A few more questions on the reading comprehension section than the logical reasoning section. And because there are, that many questions in a short amount of time, a lot of people will talk about, well, you have to complete the first 10 questions. We need to rush through the questions in order to get to all of them. That is not focusing on when we're trying to improve at the LSAT. What we need to focus on is going slowly, building understanding, and gaining familiarity with the test. Going slowly, focusing on accuracy, and learning everything we can from each individual question. The way that we go fast is by understanding this test really well. Now, we often have a phrase at LSAT Demon, I think you probably stole it from somewhere else, but it's slow is smooth, smooth is fast. When we develop a really firm, strong understanding of this test, we will naturally go fast because we'll be able to easily identify the correct answer and eliminate the wrong answer. We try to rush through the questions. We're both going to compromise our accuracy, and we're probably not even going to improve our speed very much. Because if we rush through the passage that we have to read, and then we go through the answer choices, we're not going to know what we're looking for. It's going to take us a while to figure out which one we should choose. So if we spend more time in the passage, go slowly, rephrase what we're reading, and going through the answer choices will be much faster and will be much more accurate in doing so. Accuracy over speed. I can't emphasize that enough. That is the number one piece of advice I can give. Second is that you have to pay for law school. I talked a bit about this. Law schools offer a ton of full ride scholarships, of more than half scholarships, where people are paying very little or nothing for law school. So if you do really well on the LSAT, you have a solid GPA, there are certainly law schools you can apply to that will let you go for free. You can absolutely get a free JD, get your best LSAT score. Now, you have to decide, are you going to go for your school that you can maybe sneak into? You want to go into debt? You want to go to a school that's definitely going to offer you a full scholarship? That's a decision you have to make. But just know that you don't have to pay for law school. You don't have to take out major loans to get a JD. You can go for free. and the LSAT can open a lot of doors for you in terms of scholarship. Third is that you should take the official test only once. So for the sake of reporting, in terms of the publicly disclosed data, they only report your top LSAT score. Now, law schools care about the LSAT for the reasons I mentioned. It reflects your ability to perform well in your first year of law school. But it also is important for the sake of their rankings. And for the sake of their rankings, they're only reporting your highest LSAT score. So it's a better idea to exhaust your attempts at this test to get the best score you possibly can, as opposed to only taking the test once, trying to do well that time, and just settling for that score because you think it might look better that you only took. The LSAT is what we call a hard factor on your application. There are two hard factors on your application. It's your LSAT and GPA. They're two quantifiable metrics that sort of allow law schools to compare students. They're numbers, hard numbers. Soft factors on your application are things like your personal state, letters of recommendation, and the number of times you took the LSAT. That's another soft thing. Some law schools might make. Most important part of your application, highest LSAT score. A few LSAT points, way more important than the consideration of how many times you took the test. So you should take every LSAT you need. Get 5 administrations every 5 years, 7 administrations lifetime. You should use all that you need to maximize your score. Fourth is that you should read the question stem first, or just the question first. So if for those of you who are familiar with the test, you'll know that there is a passage page and the logical section, paragraph. There's a question. There's 5 answer choices. There's a lot of advice out there saying that you should read the question first. That way you know what you're looking for in the passage. Something that we find with students is that often puts blinders on students. Students will read very narrowly through the passage. They'll be looking for a specific piece of information, and that style of reading will compromise their understanding of the entire passage and compromise their ability to find the correct answer. What we want you to do is read the passage first, approach every passage the same way. So again, if I'm talking about the logical reasoning section, I know I'm going to get a sentence or a few sentences. Either going to be a collection of ideas, or it's going to be an argument. If it's an argument, I'm like, okay, is this a good argument or is this flawed? It's not an argument. What do those set of facts prove to me? Pretty simple. I read them slowly. I understand their implications. I understand the assumptions. I understand the flaws. If I do that well, I'll be ready for any question the test asks of me, and I'll be ready to make a solid prediction going into the answer choices. That's another skill I recommend you really try to develop on the LSAT. After you read the question, pause, come up with a solid prediction before you go into the answer choices. 80% of the answer choices on the LSAT are wrong. Only 1 out of 5 is right. So they're going to feed you a lot of bad ideas. You should have a strong understanding of what you're looking for going through the answer choice before you go into them. That'll help you more efficiently and effectively eliminate the wrong answer choices and find the correct answer. That helps both your accuracy and your efficiency on the test. Number 5 is that you need to know formal logic. Now, when I started studying with LSAT Demon, I was so relieved when they said, you don't have to worry about the whole formal logic stuff. You don't have to learn a whole new language to take this test. Don't worry about what the contrapositive is or what the inverse of a statement is. Don't worry about learning all that new language, diagramming things out, trying to understand things in a formal sense. You can just understand ideas of LSAT in common sense terms. There are no ideas that are too complicated on this test to not be able to rephrase them in common sense terms and understand them intuitively. So don't worry about learning some other language. If they're complicating this test, your job is to simplify this test so it's digestible, understandable, and you feel comfortable with the information being presented. When people diagram, they'll try to use complicated phrasing using formal logic. Often we find students just confuse themselves and will actually regress on the test. Take your time as you're reading. Make sure you understand what you're reading. Rephrase it if you need to. That will serve you well. Don't worry about formal logic or diagram. 6, another myth is that they are LSAT hacks. There are not LSAT hacks. I'm sorry to break it to you. There's no magic piece of advice that I can give to you that's going to improve your score by 5 points overnight. I think there are a lot of, little YouTube videos that individual people make that are 5 points in 5 minutes. Here you go. And those don't exist. And often those creators, those pieces of advice are trying to give you pieces of advice where if you just took your diagnostic test, what's a way that on the margins you could maybe just coincidentally get a couple more questions right? But those pieces of advice aren't helping you to build your understanding of the test and really transform your LSAT score. So maybe you'll find little tips and tricks and strategies that aren't actually going to help you build that understanding of the test, but they'll help you on the margins. A good litmus test for any piece of advice is, does this actually help me what I'm reading better? Help me to identify correct answers more effectively by using my understanding. That's how you get better at the LSAT. Learn how to understand these passages better, learn the patterns of the test, learn how to predict a little bit better. And over time, those skills build, gain more comfort with this test, you gain more confidence, and you can make major improvements. Focus on that. That's how you're really going to transform your score. Don't focus on tips and tricks that, again, gain you a point or two. If anything, those are going to lead you astray. LSAT the easy way. Or don't know where to start, you need to try some practice questions. Another thing I loved when I started with LSAT Demon is, I thought when I was studying for this test that I was going to have to read a book, read a bunch of lessons up front, have to read about this test before I tried this test. But what we recommend at LSAT Demon is just hop right into the question. Go one at a time, understand the question. You don't get the answer right, or even if you do get it right, read our explanations, review thoroughly. The lessons on this test lie in the question. Sure, you can read about necessary assumption question, what we're looking for in necessary assumption question. You can maybe understand that abstractly, maybe, but the way you're really going to internalize those lessons, fundamentally understand what those questions are asking you, are by doing those questions, and when you need it, consulting our explanation. Consulting our lesson on necessary assumption question after you've taken a question. Using our ask button, if you're really not understanding the question, to ask a personalized question, help a tutor help you to understand what you just. As you do questions one by one, learning everything you can from each one, those lessons build up and you develop the skills that you need on this test. So don't worry about reading a whole bunch about this test. Jump right in, try some practice questions. And I would say quality over quantity in studying. Second point here is that we recommend a consistent quality hour each day. Emphasis on the quality. One of my top pieces of advice for people starting with the LSAT is generally quality over quantity. I mean that in a few ways. So if you're sitting down for a study session, you shouldn't be saying, how many questions can I do in this hour to get in the most practice that I can? No, I'm going to go slowly through the individual question, and I'm not going to proceed from the passage until I understand it completely. I'm not proceeding from the question until I have a strong prediction to answer. I'm not going to hit the submit button on this question until I know why the right answer is correct and why all of the incorrect answers are incorrect. Only then, when I would be shocked if I got the question wrong, do I hit submit. Because that way, I am maximizing my understanding of this question and what I'm learning from the question. So it's quality over quantity. Even if I only do 2 questions in that hour, I will have gotten more out of that hour of studying than if I did 30 questions and played LSAT slot machine, where I'm hoping for a happy number at the end. I hope I got as many right as I can. I'm not actually learning from the questions if I'm doing that. So in that sense, yeah, quality over quantity. Also, think about it in terms of the number of hours you're studying. A lot of people think, well, I just need volume. I need as many hours as I can, because that's going to help me the most, right? More practice equals, more success. Not necessarily. Something that we really want to emphasize is that you are holding yourself to a high standard when you're studying. A high standard of focus. Your phone's away, you're in a quiet room if possible, you're fully focused on this test, and you're holding yourself to the standard of focus that you would if you were there on test day. Because that's a skill that we're trying to drill into you, preparing you for test day. Test day shouldn't feel any different than when you were practicing. When you're doing an official question on the LSAT, it should be like, oh, I've done this a million times. I have focused like this, focused intently on understanding an argument like this a million times, so I'm completely comfortable. If we get lazy, if we're on our phone, if we're not quite fully focusing on the test, we're going to get questions wrong and we're going to develop bad habits. Again, we're training our muscles. We want to work on our form. We're not holding ourselves to that high standard of focus. That's bad form. That's only going to hurt us. So start with a quality hour each day. Feel like you can do more and hold yourself to that standard, absolutely do it if you have the time to do it. But if you can only do an hour a day, I understand a lot of you are working. That's okay. Absolutely can make significant progress on this test by only studying an hour a day if you're willing to hold yourself to that high standard, quality over quantity. Now, so here's how you do practice questions. I've already talked about this a bit. You're reading the passage carefully, tracking the argument, saying, okay, if this is an argument, doesn't make sense, read the question, make a prediction, and you eliminate the wrong answer. Something I'll emphasize since I've already sort of walked through the last step, eliminating the wrong answers. Something I said before is that 80% of the answer choices are wrong, so that might seem kind of obvious, but that means going into answer choice A. The presumption is that this answer is wrong. This answer is probably going to be wrong, 80% chance it is. And so we are hypercritical of every answer choice. We know what we're looking for, first of all. So if it isn't what we're looking for, we are hyper skeptical of that. And this answer choice has to prove to us that it is correct. We're not going in with an assumption that, okay, this could be correct, so let me construct an argument for it. The assumption is that it's wrong. We have to read with a very critical eye on this test, not just when we're reading the passage. There's a lot of bad arguments on the LSAT. We want to be hypercritical passages, but also when we're reading the answer choices. There's a whole lot of bad ideas. LSAT is filled with bad ideas. On the logical reasoning section, like 90% of arguments are bad arguments. Then you get to the answer choices and they're bad answer choices. You're sifting through a lot of BS on this test. And your job is to keep in mind that, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of BS, and that's why I'm reading hypercritically when I'm doing that. You're eliminating wrong answers just as much as you are questioning. The right answer is the one that you're like, can't argue with that. That's it. You're not arguing for the answers, you're arguing against the answers. Drilling. So, again, tech issue. Can't go into these questions, but if you start an LSAT Demon free account, which is really easy, put in your name, make up a password, there's no card information required. You have access to 3 free practice tests worth of questions, 300 questions. You can use the drilling feature that I mentioned. You can go question by question, check out our explanations, check out the ask button if you want to, check out our video explanation, and see what it's like to go through some questions. So use our drilling feature. Moving on from that, talking a bit about accommodations. So earlier I mentioned that, if you don't have accommodation, this test is 35 minutes section for 26 questions a section. That's a pretty tight amount of time. However, a lot of people qualify for accommodations, which is usually extended time on the test. So if you, say, have an ADHD diagnosis, or if you have if you've received previous accommodations on another standardized test like the SAT, SRE, and that, using that documentation or a doctor's note speaking about your diagnosis to the Law School Admissions Council, you can get extended time on the LSAT. Now, even though we talk about, going slowly, focusing on understanding over speed, speed is an issue for a lot of people on this test, or rather timing. A lot of people can't finish the section. At least for a while they can't, as they're building. If you have a condition that prevents you from being able to go at that speed, and that, within that time frame, you can't be accurately measured on the standardized test, you absolutely should seek out accommodations. Send in a doctor's note, documentation, and you can get extended time. The minimum amount of extended time that you can get is 1.5 times extended time. So that gives you 50 minutes per section, opposed to 35 minutes a section. That can make a major difference. You can also get 2 times extended time for certain other disabilities, giving you 70 minutes a section. So if you think you might qualify, you absolutely should consider applying for accommodations because it make a major difference, and you should get the accommodations that you deserve if, of course, if you deserve them. And, the LSAT is part of your law school application, so you should every resource you can maximize. Another note on this that, if you have documentation, you need to apply documentation for past accommodations, a doctor's note, and you'll be able to pick the accommodations that you want to apply for. You should absolutely seek them out. Generally, the Law School Admissions Council will approve accommodations. A very high percentage of accommodations requests are granted, so definitely look into those. It can definitely help out. Fee waivers. I'm sure a lot of you know about LSAT fee waivers, but I won't break down this chart completely. If you want to take a picture, and that might be formal, useful information about whether you qualify for a fee waiver. Fee waivers can help you in multiple steps of the law school application process. If you're taking the LSAT, it can help your fees to be waived for when you're taking the tests, or at least up to administrations of the test again, right? And when you're applying to law school, for every law school application, I believe, I don't want to get this wrong, $35, $40, $45 an application for the credential assembly service. Basically, the Law School Admissions Council will send your transcripts, your LSAT score to the law school. They'll charge you a fee for that. If you have a fee waiver, that fee is waived. And if you're applying broadly, like we recommend at LSAT Demon, you'll hear that advice everywhere. Good. It can save you a lot of money. Those fees really add up. So if you qualify or you think you qualify for a fee waiver, do it. Another advantage of having a fee waiver is that a lot of prep services will offer discounts if you have a fee waiver. LSAT Demon is one of them. So we have multiple paid plans, and I'll go over them in a little more detail later. But the basic plan is $95 a month. If you have a fee waiver, that's lowered by $6 to $38 a month. Our premium and live plans are lowered by 20% each. They're $195 a month and $295 respectively, at 20% a month. Also, at the end of the presentation, I'm going to have a QR code. Scan that and follow the steps. 25% discount code off of your after this presentation. But definitely, if you qualify for waiver, there are so many advantages of having it. Definitely look into having that. It'll save you a lot of money. Demon plans. So we have 4 plans, and you look into a free plan. Like I said before, no card information required. It doesn't expire. A lot of people study for a while using the free plan. You have access to 300 plus questions. You have access to our drilling feature. You have access to the Ask button. You have access to a certain number of our lessons. You can get a lot out of our free plan. We also have free resources, like one of the ones I highlighted earlier, the scholarship estimator. Definitely check that out. So you have access to those resources. We also have a free monthly class coming up on February 1st, breaking down Prep Test 135. So if you've never taken the test, want to take a diagnostic test, we recommend that you take the free Test 135 on our website before going to that class. Bring any questions about the test that you have to class. Kaylee, one of our best teachers, I highly recommend. Then with the basic plan, we have 58 official LSATs. There's like 100 questions on every test. That's a lot of questions. All of those have written and recorded. Have a free monthly class that you have access to. Smart drilling feature, Ask button that I was talking about. The premium plan, all of that, plus all of our lessons, every question type, every topic you need. And we also have, you will also have access to all of our class recordings. And the main perk of our top plan is that you can attend all of our classes live if you have a live plan. So we have 4 or 5 classes every single day at LSAT Demon online, all over Zoom, ranging from 8 a.m. Eastern time to 9 p.m. Eastern time. So whatever class works for your schedule, or whatever class is at the right difficulty level for you, on the right topic for you, in the right format style for you, you can find what works for you. LSAT Demon, it's sort of like having a LSAT gym membership, where you're not going to a weekly course with a syllabus, going through the syllabus week by week. Rather, we have individual classes that you attend and look at the syllabus for that individual class. Come prepared, and you can go whenever you want to any class you need. If you really want to, you can go to multiple classes a day if you need. You can have access to as much individualized support because oftentimes teachers will stay after class for quite a while. If you have any general questions about your studying, anything you're struggling with, you can talk to our teachers whenever you need. The beauty of LSAT Demon is that it's the best self-study tool, supplemented by some of the best personalized help you can from any subscription plan in LSAT Prep. And discounts, I talked a bit about this. Getting a fee waiver is our biggest discount. We'll have access to the QR code at the end of the presentation, 25% off live. Something else I want to highlight is that if you are in the military, or if you were in the military, or if you're a military spouse, you will have access to 20% off any of our paid plans. We have that discount as well. For any of those, or to inquire about any possible discounts, feel free to reach out to our help team, help@lsatdemon.com. We're happy to help you out. Hopefully get affordable, save you a little bit more money. Yeah, I think I sped through that, so we have a little extra time for any questions that you might have about the LSAT, anything about the presentation, anything about the LSAT generally. I am happy. Sure. So it would be through the Law School Admissions Council. That's LSAC, LSAC.org. They'll have all the information on that website. You can call them. They have the information that I showed. I don't know if I can go backwards. Not good with tech. But early in this presentation, I showed that chart, different qualification. That's right there on the website. So the Law School Admission Council is all of the law school centralized place where all of the law school applications are out in LSAT, and they'll send out your transcript and LSAT score. And so that's where you get the fee. You don't have to worry about getting it. Yeah. Yeah, so I believe the QR code at the end of this presentation could allow you to register for a free account. And as long as you register for a free account, go to the classes page. There's a calendar where you can just click free, and you'll see the next free class. No, it's free. So you just need a free account. Yeah, no card information. It takes like a minute to set up the account. Go to that class. And excuse me. Yeah, the test is free on there as well. It's one of the 3 free practice tests. You can take that for free. It takes like half hours, and you'll be ready for the class. Yeah, so it's a lot of other prep services or course-based. So you go once a week, follow that class, and it's a limited amount of time. Pay over $1,000 for a course where you're going once a week. And at the end of that course, it's over. Here it's subscription-based, so $295 a month for our highest tier plan, all the way down to the lowest paid plan, which is $95 a month. And you get access to classes every single day, with all the resources you could need to help study. We believe it's more cost-effective, and it's the best set of resources you can have in the industry. I would also say that the approach to the test is pretty distinct from LSAT Demon. Surprised that it's so distinct, because our approach to the test is, let's make this as simple, make this feel like as close to common sense as, because the arguments aren't overly complicated on this test. Honestly, the most complicated part of the LSAT is understanding some of the crappy writing on the test. Literally, on the reading comprehension section, they will take real articles written by distinguished academics. They're very well written. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, that's on a good topic. We're now going to rewrite it to be harder to read. Let's complicate the syntax. That's why it's important to just slow down, make sure what they're understanding, what they're saying, common sense terms. And yeah, as long as we're doing that, going slowly, none of the ideas themselves are too complicated, as long as we're taking. So it's simplifying the LSAT and not overcomplicating it through diagramming and formal logic. Sorry? How long is the question? Um, I can pull that up right now on my phone. So I'm going to lsatdemon.com. I have my account. If you create a free class, you go to classes page. So I'm now going to February 1st, and that class begins at 3:30 p.m. and it's a 1.5 hour. Yep. So if you create a free account, when you go to the classes page, in the corner has different calendars listed on the free one, and all of us. Yeah, you. So it's basically the function, that section. I've been at a lot of the law school admission council events. I've talked to a lot of admissions reps, and a lot of them just use that to briefly look at to make sure under time constraints, you know how to write reasonably well. Want to make sure your writing ability on your personal statement matches your ability. But it's not a scored section, because it's hard to standardize scoring a written section. Difficult. So they decided not to do that, and it's something that's just brief. So as long as you don't totally come across like can't write, and of course you'll be able to, you understand English very well, you're with an undergraduate. I wouldn't sweat that too much. Only really worry about that after taking your official test admit. And look into some tips and tricks. We're happy to help you out with that as well. But in terms of emphasis, the multiple choice portion of the test is so much more important. In fact, many admissions officers don't sweat it too much. The free plan is forever. Yeah, yeah. So there's no, it doesn't expire. And so the reason that you would not be able to use it anymore is because you went through all of the questions. So you have a limited number of questions. You have 300 questions. So you may run out after you study for long enough. But if you go slowly, take our advice of 1 hour a day, going slowly, maybe you're only doing 2, 3 questions an hour. Make it last for a while. And you can learn a lot. That free plan. And once you've done that enough, you'll get an idea for, okay, this is actually helping me, and maybe you'll want to upgrade. Yeah, you got it. Sure. Yep, you're good. Oh, yes. Everyone, hard to answer. I would recommend diagnostic tests. Have you done that yet? So take your diagnostic test, sort of get a feel for your baseline. Everyone's timeline is at LSAT. I mentioned look, Robert got a 137 on his diagnostics test, and he ended up with a 176. I think he studied between 1 and 2. Other teachers, my colleague Abigail, on the other, she got a 163 on her diagnostic test. I think she studied for 2 months, and she got a 179 on the test. So a lot of it does depend on where you're beginning. So get a feel for your baseline. You can come to us. You can talk about, timeline. I said earlier, the presentation, setting goals, a timeline. So the important thing is, use our scholarship. Look at the publicly from the law school. Get an idea for what kind of where you would want, what are different, and look out for a study plan. Right, research. Don't settle for a lower score. So if you're a couple months, I would say, yeah, rigid timelines are only going to hurt you. There's also, even if maybe you could make the progress that you want within that timeline, the pressure of trying to reach that score within, then we start cramming. Don't anymore. After the pandemic, we switched fully online. Yeah, we have students all across the country. They used to be in concentrated areas. Our two founders would find it's better cost effective, especially with studying for the LSAT. They're often people with full-time jobs, with full-time students. A lot of them don't have the time to keep classes. Offer one-on-one tutoring. However, it's not part of any. You can go to lsatdemon.com/tutors and all of our. We have a form that you can fill out if you want to request an individual. We have different tiers of level, master tutors and regular. I'm a regular tutor. Abigail in the other room is a master tutor. However, if you're just starting out, I would recommend trying a month of live for then. And please note that like for an hour of tutoring, it's $200 an hour. Pretty standard. LSAT tutoring, a lot of money. But live is $95 a month. Get access to Ask button, personalized help. Go to classes, personalized help. And you have access to our drilling feature, all of our explanation, written, recorded, all of the resources you. So it's way more cost effective. I'd say oftentimes you get a lot more out of that live plan than if you're paying for individual hours of tutoring. I would say try that out first. And I think private one-on-one tutor, cost effective later on in your LSAT journey when you're sort of fine tuning your approach. When you're an experienced test taker and you need help from a professional, really sort of just, getting those maybe extra points, helping you just maybe adjust your, when you need to talk to. So it's taking money out of our pockets. Tell you that advice. So I definitely recommend if you're just starting, try a subscription. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, being here. Thank you. I would say this is the biggest room I've ever taught the LSAT to. So this is pretty cool. I feel very important. So thank you all for looking up at me. Yeah, have a great day, everyone. Thanks all for staying.